His hair is fire. Why? I keep thinking it's Achilles even though the name of the film is Hercules. Kaide Fantas. My name is Elizabeth and I have a master's in Greek literature from Oxford. I also have a BFA in illustration from Mass Art. Today I'm going to be talking about Disney's Hercules and just the character design, not like the story, because that's a whole other video that I could make. So Aphrodite, she's called Golden Aphrodite in antiquity, so that could refer to her hair color. It could also not refer to her hair color. So I don't have a huge issue with the fact that she's blonde. It's just that like, I do feel like that's a little bit of a trope of like people constantly depicting Aphrodite as blonde. She's obviously got the hourglass thing going on a lot. I'm not a huge fan of that. That was not the case in antiquity. Look at the Aphrodite of Cnidos, look at the Aphrodite of Milos. She's chunky, she looks like she's well fed, she's tall, she looks very strong, etc. So that was their beauty ideal. The dress that she's wearing, to me, does not communicate a specific type of clothing from the ancient world. So she's got a dress that comes over one shoulder and it's also not belted as far as I can tell. So pretty much any garment in antiquity was belted. It's just not practical to have a dress that isn't belted because basically it's a massive piece of fabric. It's like a tube of fabric that you would sort of step into the middle of. And so if you don't belt it, every time you like stick your arm out, the whole thing is just gonna like come out and get in the way of whatever you're doing. Also, she has blue eyes. I think that a lot of the characters in this film have relatively fair hair and blue eyes, like Hera, Aphrodite, Persephone, Achilles. Oh my god, his name's not it's literally Hercules. I keep thinking it's Achilles even though the name of the film is Hercules. In antiquity, that was pretty rare, so it's odd that like half the pantheon is like blonde and blue-eyed. Aphrodite is gonna get like a 4 out of 10. I like that they're trying to do representation here, which is awesome. I will say Apollo, to me, looks like Ares. If I looked at him and I didn't know who it was, I'd be like, oh, that's Ares because he has the helmet and blah, blah, blah. Apollo is usually shown with a Stephanos, which is like the garland of leaves, basically. He's got long hair, no facial hair, so that definitely is accurate. Apollo, I think I would give like a 5 out of 10. Ares. He's got white hair. That's really jarring to me. Ares is a young god. He's very, like, to use Greg Naj's term, he is Mr. Violent Death. He's like very attractive because he's young and he's manly and he's like this like epitome of manhood. Also, he seems to have a beard and no mustache. I've never seen that in classical antiquity. If you have a beard, you kind of probably have a mustache as well. Like, gonna give that one maybe like a 3 out of 10. Artemis. Once again, she's got the like one-armed like peplos thing going on. I don't understand the one-armed thing. A peplos has 2 pins. She's got a moon here. I can see that they're going with a little bit of a theme of like the heart for Aphrodite and the moon, and then like Demeter and Persephone have flowers. I like that. It's obviously very distinct. She isn't the goddess of the moon. She just, I think, is associated with the moon because she hunts, and of course when the moon is out, that's the best time for hunting. I think this is gonna get like a 2 out of 10. I really like Athena's character design overall. She's got like a cape going on. It seems to be like pinned here and here. That, as far as I'm aware, doesn't exist in antiquity. I don't think it was sort of invented yet. Athena has something called an aegis that like basically is the breastplate with Medusa's head on it. It has like sort of snake shapes coming off of it and it's really unique looking. Given their kind of curly shape language in this film, I'm really surprised that they chose to not work with that. I think it's a really distinct garment, especially because in probably at least 90% of the depictions of Athena that I have seen, she has an aegis on. That's a really clear marker that you're looking at Athena. If you go into a museum, you look at a vase and you see that somebody wearing the aegis, like it's Athena. Oh, her owl is so cute. Athena, I think I would give like a 7 out of 10. Demeter's character design is really interesting. I'm curious what they're doing kind of with her like headdress situation. The whole top situation is not resonating with me in terms of anything that I've seen. Obviously this was made a long time ago. I do kind of wish that they had maybe chosen to do this like fuller body type for maybe Aphrodite instead of like the sort of like mother character. I mean, like Demeter, like it means the mother basically. Meter means mother in Greek. So I think that they kind of leaned into the like matronly kind of look for her, which isn't how I see her personally, but I wish that they had like just kind of like played with those stereotypes a little bit instead of like kind of playing into the stereotypes. So yeah, maybe like a 5 out of 10. The fact that he's got some kind of like a leaf situation going on his head is definitely accurate. Usually he's got like grape leaves that he's got around his head. He seems to have whitish hair. I don't think he would. He's pretty young. That's like gonna get like a 2 out of 10. Do I really have to talk about Hades? I can't even. Oh my god, I can't even. I can't do this. Okay, so fantastic acting. No shade on the acting whatsoever. The acting's great. However, with the character design, where do I start? So everybody else seems to be wearing pretty much classical clothing. They're wearing a peplos, they're wearing a himation, they're wearing a chiton. What he's wearing, which kind of looks like a dress with a thick border, is more archaic looking. So I'm curious as to like, why does his clothing look archaic when everybody else's looks more classical? So the fact that he's wearing black, I've got mixed feelings about. There's no evidence specifically that he would wear black. However, I do think that that's not a huge stretch of the imagination to think that he would wear black. The Greeks did wear black when they were in mourning, or however close they could get to black. It maybe was like a dark blue. So obviously, because he's like basically the god of death, like it makes sense that he'd wear black. The skull is a little bit much though. The garment that he seems to be wearing over the dress is a himation basically. So I'm curious as to why it would have a pin. The way that you wear a himation is you wrap it around your waist, and then it goes usually like around your back and then over your shoulder. So there's no need to pin it. And in fact, it often falls off. You'll see in vase painting, someone's just got it like they're nude and then they just got it like wrapped around their arm because it fell off. Like it does do that a lot. So they didn't pin them. His hair is fire. Why? I feel like the person who did the character design for this wasn't there in 2nd grade on the day when we learned that blue flame is hot, not cold. Hades is kryados, which means cold. Like the underworld is cold. They got their impression of the underworld from caves, which are cold. It's very misty, it's very dark, it's very like kind of dank. He's cold. He's cold. Why would you have blue flame? So I get obviously like aesthetically the blue kind of plays into the cold element, but like, I don't know. It's hot. Blue flame is hot, blue stars are hot. Why? So Hades has dark hair. He is called Kwanokaita, so is Poseidon. That word means dark-haired. What it very, very literally means is a person who has dark, glossy blue hair. Kuaneos means dark, glossy blue, so Kwanokaita means basically dark-haired. So it has a slight blue kind of idea to it, but it's consistently translated by reputable translators as dark-haired. Hades is also called Menonkaita, I believe, which means black-haired. So he definitely has dark hair. He'd have long hair, it would be curly, he would have a beard. Yeah. I don't understand why. I mean, he's an adult man, why does he not have a beard? Like, a beard was a sign of manhood in antiquity. When you get your first beard as a boy around like 15 or whatever, that's like a huge kind of milestone, and that's seen as like the moment when you become a man. So if somebody is being depicted as an adult in antiquity, they're gonna have a beard. Like even Hermes has a beard in a lot of like archaic vase paintings. Also, why are his eyes yellow? What? And why are his teeth pointy? Is he a shark? He's not a shark. I do definitely like the shape language a lot. I think that they've kind of like incorporated this sort of spidery look that sort of makes him look more like a villain. That's a whole other video. When I think about somebody like Ursula, the character design for that is so good. And I'm just like, what happened? That's gonna get a solid 1 out of 10. Oh my god, Hephaestus is in this? I didn't even do him. Okay, whatever, it's fine. So Hera, okay. Let's talk about this sleeve situation. I think that what they're trying to imitate is that when you're wearing a garment like a chiton, it's basically a big tube of fabric that gets pinned at the top and then belted. So particularly if you're very wealthy, you'd have loads of buttons because obviously buttons are expensive and blah, blah, blah. So that situation is what's being replicated here, but there would be overlap of the fabric. You'd have 2 pieces of fabric that have, like I said, it's like a tube of fabric. So you've got 2 pieces of fabric that would be hanging on either side of your arm, and then you've got to button them so that they fasten together on the top of your arm. So there would be overlapping fabric. The holes would not be that big. Sometimes you can't see through to the skin at all. I like the way that they drew her hair. Her hair is like very kind of curly and sort of reminiscent of the way that the Greeks would like draw curly hair. Also, the fact that she has curly hair at all is great because that is very prevalent in the Mediterranean. I'm not sure what like this situation is going on here. I have no idea what that is. She's got a diadem. I'm not sure why it's pointy, but Hera is depicted with a diadem, so that's definitely accurate. I'll give Hera like a 4 out of 10. When I look at Hercules, I see Achilles. He is blonde and he doesn't have facial hair because he's a youth. That to me immediately says Achilles, also because he's a warrior, obviously. Whenever Hercules is depicted in Greek vase painting, he is shown as having a beard and having a lion skin over his shoulders. Sometimes, usually it's kind of over his head, like his face is sort of coming out of the lion's mouth, and then the lion's paws are kind of like draping down. So I'm curious that they chose to like not really do anything with that. Yeah. He looks very American to me. He's got this kind of like early Marvel comics, like sort of boxy face shape. He is blonde, his nose is kind of short. He's got blue eyes. He's got this kind of like hair situation that's very like 1950s kind of America, which I don't love because I do feel like it's kind of over Americanizing the Greek mythology, the pantheon, whatever, because he really doesn't look like he's from that part of the world at all. I wouldn't have so much of an issue with that, like if they actually had some characters who do look like they're from that part of the world, but they kind of don't. I think Hercules is the only one with eyebrows that aren't like literally just a line. I feel like the eyebrows are such an important part of a character design and can communicate so much about a face and make it look really unique that I'm a little bit confused as to why they wouldn't kind of use that as an element for more of the characters. Particularly in the case of Hades, because his eyebrows are talked about several times as like kind of being a significant element of his personality. Like he like smiles with his eyebrows at one point, or somebody describes him when she's about to die, she describes him as like looking like that at her, like from under his brows. So he's obviously very expressive with them, so it's like I feel like something was lost there. Hercules is gonna get like a 0 out of 10. I do think that Hermes' character design is strong in that he's got a really distinct face. His silhouette is obviously really unique as well. Silhouette is like something you talk about in terms of character design. If a character has a unique silhouette that's very recognizable, that's usually a good thing. The glasses though. Why does he have glasses if this is like antiquity? So again, they're going with the one shoulder Keton kind of thing. I'm not sure why they're doing that, because that makes him look like a slave. And then his wand, the caduceus, is usually just a line. It's depicted as like a line, and then it's got a circle, and then it's got like a U shape at the top. I'm not sure what that's a stylization of, or if they literally thought of it as like a metal rod in that shape, but it didn't have the like 2 snakes with the wings until quite a bit later, I think. His sandals are actually pretty accurate. I think a lot of people, maybe because of like what happened in like the 18th century with like sculpture and stuff like that, they always wanted to draw him with these really strappy sandals with the wings, or like sometimes the wings are actually coming out of his ankles. You don't see that in classical antiquity. He's got like boots. Like they wore boots a lot of the time in classical antiquity. They're not just always wearing these sandals. Okay, so Meg, the dress that she's wearing seems to be imitating a peplos, but it definitely doesn't really look like a peplos. They didn't have these really big thick belts. She's also got some kind of like a girdle or like a belt or something going on with her dress, which I'm not sure about. So if you're wearing any kind of Greek garment that's belted, it's gonna be belted at the waist, and that's the only belt. So her hair situation, I don't know what they're imitating. She's got a ponytail essentially. This has always like perplexed me because so many people will do the like little short curly pony for like an ancient Greek goddess. I don't think I've ever actually really seen that. I've tried so many times to like look further into Greek hairstyles, and it can be actually surprisingly tricky, but whenever you look at a statue, if you can see the back of the head, she's gonna have a low bun probably. Meg, I'm gonna give like a 3 out of 10 just because of this weird sash thing. The muses are so awesome, I love them. They all look really different, and I think it's like kind of referencing a gospel choir. So I want to talk about like what this woman is wearing. Obviously they're not gonna have a thigh slit like up to here in their skirt. That definitely would not happen. But this sort of shape of like the very solid sort of top is very like archaic looking. One woman has a shirt with like a frill on it, and then she's got like a skirt under it, and the midriff is bare. That would never happen. That would just never happen. The muses, I would definitely give like a 9 out of 10. I think that the liberties that they took with it definitely like were worth it in terms of like character design, the shape language, and the kind of flow of the lines, and the kind of whole aesthetic and the song and everything, and obviously representation as well. Persephone, oh my god, she's a flower. She's actually a flower. So I actually wrote about this in my dissertation. A lot of people like to kind of like overstress the flower, like the floral element of Persephone. She's the daughter of Demeter. Demeter makes things grow. She probably can also make things grow. There's one Latin author, I think, who says that flowers grow everywhere she walks, but that's definitely a little bit later. Like we're talking about like after Jesus kind of thing. But Mostly she's scary. The Greeks talk about her as if she lives in the underworld all of the time. Usually they pray to Hades and Persephone at the same time. She's not somebody that you want to mess with. She's kind of, the Athenians didn't even like to say her proper name. They called her Kore, the daughter, instead of Persephone because they didn't want to say her proper name. Apart from the fact that she picks a Narcissus, which then obviously like Hades springs out of the earth, etc., that's kind of the only place where she's mentioned in conjunction with a flower, I think anywhere in classical antiquity. Like I could get very, very in-depth on this and I won't, but suffice it to say, she's a lot less floral than people sometimes think she is. I'd give Persephone like a 3 out of 10. She's cute. Should she be cute? I don't know. Oh my god, Poseidon cracks me up so much. So it's funny. I like it. His face is very unique. So he's got a trident. That's accurate. Poseidon does have a trident. The fish ears and gill thing going on. Poseidon he looks as human as anybody else, I assume, because they never say like, oh, by the way, he's got fish legs or, you know, a mermaid tail or fish ears or whatever. Oh my gosh, his beard is like a mermaid tail. They're definitely leaning very hard into the like fish thing here. One thing I just want to get us to touch grass for a second. So Poseidon is the earth shaker. What's the word in Greek? Seismothon. Yeah, sesichthon. Sesichthon is the word in Greek. It means shaker of the earth. So that's his kind of primary attribute. Also in much earlier tradition, he was originally like god of streams, like rivers and streams, and also shaker of the earth. But the kind of like sea element, the ocean element, was kind of the last to come to the party. So I always like laugh a little bit when people depict him as like literally a mermaid. He definitely isn't described that way as far as I know in antiquity. He definitely lives in the water a lot and he can kind of like, he's a waterbender basically, but he's not a mermaid. I think this is what can happen if you kind of think that you understand a deity but you maybe don't, is like just really leaning into like the wrong thing about them. So for example, with Artemis, the nature element and the moon element, they're there, but they're not as important as you think they are. Or like with Poseidon, the fact that he's related to the sea. Like he is, but his main thing is that he's the shaker of the earth. I do like though that they've got different shapes going on. Several of the characters look like they're a bit heavier, but they all look different from each other. Like all the ones who are depicted as a little bit heavier and rounder, they all look different from each other, which is definitely really cool. That's gonna get like a 4 out of 10. My god, his hands are enormous. I do think that this is a little bit of a trope of like depicting Zeus with like white hair. Like, why? He's immortal. Why would he not just like, there's this word in Greek, akme, which is where we get acne. It's like basically your prime. So why would he not just be depicted as an adult male in his prime? I mean, Poseidon and Zeus and Hades are like depicted with white hair like a few times, but overwhelmingly they just have black hair. I mean, he is wearing himation, so this is actually pretty accurate. So they've got it going around and then it's coming down over the shoulder, and they've even, I think, got it on the correct shoulder. Usually it's this shoulder. So I'm not sure why they've got a pin though, because once again, you don't need to pin a himation. Nobody pins it. It's just there and it often falls off, as I've said. Also, the way that they drew his lightning bolt is actually pretty accurate. Usually it's like something that he'll grip like here, and then it's sort of got, looks like fire almost coming out either end, but it's relatively short. It looks like it's about that long in comparison to his body. So that's actually pretty accurate. Zeus, I'm gonna give like a, maybe he's gonna get an 8 out of 10 actually, just because they got the lightning bolt right. He's wearing a somewhat convincing himation. He's got a beard, he's got curly hair, he's got thick eyebrows. The character design is very unique. Pan's pretty accurate actually. Let's just call it Pan, because let's be honest, basically he's Pan. When the Greeks draw satyrs like on vase paintings, they've got kind of different facial proportions and they're sort of like normal, sort of ideal. So I think that actually pretty much comes through here. Hercules' mortal parents, 10 out of 10. The dad is wearing something called a pentasos. It's like a wide-brimmed sun hat. He's also wearing a chlamys, which is like a traveler's cape, and he's got a short chiton. That's the kind of thing you see all the time for like townsfolk. Alcmene, the headband that she's wearing, is called a fillet. That is like probably the most common hairstyle for women in the classical period. So actually this guy's outfit is pretty on point. He's got a chiton, I like the color. The sleeves are a little bit shorter and it only has 2 buttons. So obviously fabric and buttons are both very expensive. So that goes to show that he has less money than somebody like Hera. I don't know why everybody has to represent Kerberos as if he's like 3 stories tall. Like, he's half the height of a human being. He's a very normal looking dog, apart from the fact that he has 3 heads and a snake tail. So Charon is not a skeleton. He's not the Grim Reaper. He looks like a normal human being. He wears a chiton that goes over one shoulder. He's got this very groovy hat that he wears that like has spots on it. I don't know if it's supposed to be leopard skin, but yeah, he's not a skeleton. So the character design overall I think is really good. It's very kind of varied in terms of like depicting different ages, different ethnicities, different like body shapes and different facial features. That's definitely really awesome. I think that this kind of happens a lot in Disney. You could probably tell which character you're looking at only from their hands. So that I think is really strong in terms of the character design. I do think that with a lot of the female characters, they've got this kind of hourglass thing going on. Obviously it's dated now, so I get that it was kind of from another era, but I definitely don't think that we should like have, you know, raise little girls to be like watching this movie and thinking that that's realistic. Like, that's not healthy. And also that just like wasn't the body norm. That wasn't the body like ideal in antiquity for both men and women in antiquity. The kind of like way to appear beautiful is if you are tall and look like you have had enough to eat, basically, because food was often in scarcity in the ancient world. So that's it for this video. Leave me a comment below if you want me to do a video specifically on the narrative of Hercules and how accurate it is. If you want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video.